This is Painted Caravan from quite a few years back. Some weeks ago, just as my latest personal crisis was reducing to a manageable normality, my friend informed me that she needed my help in getting rid of her caravan. The storage site had told her that the caravan needed moving by the end of the month. I assumed that I couldn't really help as I didn't have a tow bar or a powerful enough car, but our conversation led to my already overactive mind cogs leaping into action. I thought my friend had sold the caravan before she set off on her holiday, and I forgot to ask her about it for a couple of weeks, but when I finally did ask, she admitted that the sale had fallen through. This led me to think even more. My first novel, past present tense, was primarily about hoarding, but a subplot was about alternative life and time spent in a caravan. My second novel, The WAGGON, is basically set almost entirely within the setting of a traditional Romany wagon. So my thinking was that, number one, I could acquire the caravan and pay someone to transport it to my driveway. Number two, I could use a lot of my creativity, at that time deeply frustrated, in updating the inside of the caravan by doing a lot of sewing and painting, two of my favourite things. Number three, I could get someone, possibly my artistic daughter, to spray paint the outside of the caravan in the style of a Romany caravan. Number four, I could set up the inside and an awning to be a kind of shop for the crafts that we make, and I could travel to events and festivals selling stuff and running workshops, etc. Number five, I could get someone to sign paint text on the rear and side of the caravan in order to promote my two novels, which mentioned caravans. I believed I might get the therapy I needed from all the making and painting and would also end up with a usable promotional tool, a potential working space, writing room or crafter van, a potential holiday home for me and a potential holiday home for others, a decent money earner according to my friends, should I need any of these things in the future. So I acquired the caravan. It had a flat tyre, but I was able to get hold of a local guy on Facebook who was willing to transport it half a mile to my driveway for a small consideration. It arrived, and then the work began. Being of a creative attitude rather than possessing an engineering state of mind, I began with the bits that I could see, rather than the hidden bits. My thinking was that I would enjoy the caravan space far more if it looked and felt good. First of all, I pillaged my secret DIY space behind the fridge and freezer and scooted around for some spare paint in interesting colours. My first task was to remove most of the curtain fittings, not the pelmets, and then to get painting. So, in vinyl silk throughout, as recommended by many caravan adaptation groups, I began painting the ceiling a deep, dusky pink, the walls of the living room area a paler grey pink, and the walls of the kitchen area a funky blue. Once this was done, I began on the soft furnishings. I bought thousands of metres of a subtle ethnic striped fabric in shades of red, gold and green and covered each of the seats. The rear of the backrest cushion was also trimmed with an ethnic tapestry design. Then the four weirdly shaped armrests were upholstered with a funky green wool fabric with fancy trim. I've had the fabric for many years and had never found a use for it. After that, I made 7 cushions, some with printed panels of a gypsy fortune teller or gypsy dancers. I also mended 3 rag dolls, the 2 largest made by a friend of my mum's, and the smallest a holly hobby doll I found in a charity shop's 10p bin. After that, it was curtain time. I used the same fabric as the seat covers, but trimmed it with lots of ribbons, braid and black cotton lace that I'd acquired over the years. I then made the pelmet covers from the most expensive of all the fabrics I'd purchased, $12.99 a metre, and created the net curtains for the kitchen window and long drapes separating the bed area from the kitchen area. These aren't ordinary nets, they're embroidered with red and yellow flowers in a Jacobean style. I've still to make the curtain tiebacks. I purchased braid online for them as I couldn't find anything nice locally, but only then did I realise it would take 2 months to arrive as it was coming in from Hong Kong. The kitchen, being a brighter area than the more subtle living/sleeping area, was given a set of rainbow striped curtains. Lovely. And while I'm in the kitchen, I managed to get hold of a lot of bargeware and brightly coloured items. They fit in perfectly, beautifully, including pans and a kettle, storage pots and tins. Then, using rugs pinched from my house, red fur and a circular rag rug, I laid the floor and was set up. I began to move things in: cutlery, plastic pots, toiletries in tiny bottles, some of my homemade items for the craft shop, television and DVD player, some brightly coloured plastic plants, lanterns and candles, books, and a few rapidly dwindling snack items. I even moved in my wooden parrot and my painted African 4-string oil can guitar, and they look amazing. I was then ready for the next step and painted the cupboards a fantastic combination of forest green and ruby red. I'm still in the process of doing this and absolutely love how homely it looks. A cross between a caravan, a narrowboat and a Romany caravan. It has now been moved into my back garden and enclosed in as a permanent feature for family group fun evenings. I'm putting in a planning application too, as I'd love to turn it into somewhere official where people could stay overnight, like a short-term holiday, maybe for writers or artists who just want a bit of me time. So that's the story of my caravan. I'm writing in it at the moment, and it is a lovely workspace with muted lighting, which is peaceful most of the time. My recommendation for anyone who is creative and is going through a dark time, find yourself a project. A big but deadline-free project seems ideal to me. Give yourself no pressure, but do give yourself as much ambition and enjoyment as you can manage at any time. The caravan has been the saving of me, and for that I am very thankful. This is an update from 3 years later. Sadly, the local council denied planning permission. I was going to turn the caravan into a lovely, cheerful, artistic writing retreat for single people, but apparently the parking wasn't adequate. The caravan is used now as a large and extra pretty shed. It isn't ideal, and it isn't what I wanted. But that's just how it is. Disappointing, but perhaps inevitable.